Welcome to another video in the series about building with Kontakt. And in this lesson, I want to discuss something that seems to come up a lot, especially with people that are new to building with Kontakt. And that is around the fact that Kontakt's menus cannot be automated. So they cannot be assigned an automation ID. And if you have a menu, and here we have just this example, but let's say, I don't know, maybe it's filter types. And you want to let the user I don't necessarily want to say automate because it's not necessarily automate, right? But you want to let the user be able to control it from outside of the instrument. And why I was careful with saying automate, because the use case that we will be showing here, and this is a very, very common use case, right? If you're building with Kontakt, is that you would like to have the menu available on the NKS keyboards. So whether it's the make 1 and 2 or the make 3 NKS1 or NKS2, the procedure that I'm going to show is similar. And the way we're going to show it is we're going to be using here the Complete Control Mark III simulator. So it's exactly the same as the behavior of the hardware Mark III, only in a simulation. So this is a program from NI that you get access to when you do NKS instruments. And I got permission to kind of show that it's not a secret, this simulator. It's exactly what the hardware does, basically. All right. So again, going back to our goal, we have this menu and we don't want it to be a slider. Obviously, we could just use a slider, right? But we want to use a menu in our GUI of our instrument. Let's close, actually, we can just be here. We want to use a menu in the GUI of our instrument, but we want to have it available on the Mark III. So let's get down to it. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to keep the menu as a widget on our GUI, but we're going to create a slider alias, and it's very simple in the end. The menu and the slider are going to kind of be updating each other's values, and this alias is going to be what is going to get the automation ID and everything. Let's jump over to the code. Now, in the past lessons that we did, I can make it a little bit, oops, not smaller, but bigger rather. In the past lessons that we did, we wrote line by line. I think we don't need to do this time. You should know all these separate commands in of themselves by watching the other lessons, and it should be simple enough. All we need to really discuss is the logic of what is happening here. But let's still go over line by line, so what the script does. So of course we have our init callback over here. We're gonna just message the debugger to clear it. We're going to make the performance view. We're going to declare I, which is going to be our variable for looping. And we're just going to declare a constant. We don't have to do this. We can just use numbers, but it's just going to make it easy. So we're going to say we have 10 items in this menu. So in our cool menu that we're declaring over here, we're going to have 10 items. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So declaring the menu. And then with the while loop, we're going to add a menu item so basically 9 items. We're going to increment I each time. We're going to add an entry called entry with the I value. So entry 0, entry 1, entry 2, entry 3. And the index is also going to be I. And we're going to end up with exactly as we see here, a menu with 9 entries numbered from 0 to 9. All right. So we have our menu. And this, remember, this is the actual thing, right? We're only doing the extra stuff in order to represent this menu. So like I mentioned, what we're going to do is we're going to create an alias. So just as we created the menu, we're going to create a menu alias. And we're going to say that the slider minimum and maximum is 0, 2, cool items minus 1. So we want 0 to 9. So we have 10 entries. And then we're going to give the slider the automation ID. This is stuff we know already, and we're going to do automation ID 0. We only have one here in this example, so of course 0. We're going to call the automation name cool. And remember that this is kind of, it's kind of obvious. It's not, I was going to say important. It's not that it's important, but it's just that you hide this control. This control is just an alias. This is the point here. The slider is not represented on your GUI, so you don't even need to move it around. You don't need to do anything with it. Just make sure that it's hidden, right? And the user can't basically interact with the slider directly from the GUI. And then just for example, let's declare a label, and we're going to use this just to see that we actually update the label. We're going to update the label basically with what the menu entry says. Now, this is an important point. We're going to make the menu persistent, and here you can go 2 ways. You can either do this, so you make the menu persistent and make the menu alias persistent as well, and then you don't need to do anything on the persistence change. But let's kind of, to make it more clean and to say, okay, hey, let's have one source of truth. We're going to make the menu persistent, and then, really important to note, on persistence change, you'll see how we flip the values later, but it also needs to be here. So as soon as we load the instrument or we load a new snapshot, we need to tell the slider alias, hey, this is the value that you're supposed to be on. All right, so let's forget the function for a second, and let's jump to the UI controls, and then let's go back up in a second. So we need the two UI controls, right? We need the cool menu, which is the menu itself, and we need the cool menu alias, which, remember, it's the hidden slider. So this UI control, and just to make the point again, this one is what you're interacting with on the GUI, right? But the slider is hidden. So the only way to trigger this on UI control callback is to trigger it via automation. So either moving the complete control or whatnot, or via automation from your DAW and just the host automation ID. So really, to make it clear, via host automation ID 0, which we have set here. So this is the only way that this UI callback gets called. Anyways, so let's go back to the menu itself. When we click on the menu, we want to also update the value of the slider, obviously. And this is really simple. We say, hey, menu value has been changed. Okay, UI control has been touched. Go to the alias, the slider, and whatever value the menu is on, so now it's on value entry 5, which is actually value 6, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is number 6. And do the same, but remember we are 0 to 9 on the slider, so it is the fifth one, the fifth entry, and we just equal the two things. Same thing has to happen on the slider alias. Now, this is also another important bit. In order to not just continuously trigger the menu, right, we only want to do stuff if it's actually different. And this is the way to check it. So if the alias, this is the not equal sign. So if it doesn't equal menu, right, so remember, we change now the menu, right? So now menu, let's say it's on 3. Do this, slider alias is on 3 now. And remember, menu is on 3. Now we change slider alias and we check. Now we touch it and it's now just touched, so we don't want to do anything. But if we change it to 4, now it doesn't equal this. Now we need to do the opposite. We need to tell the menu, hey, look, slider alias was just changed to 4. You need to change to 4 as well. And then those two things are guaranteed to be on the same value. Now if we do whatever we need to do, which is do cool things, obviously we only want to ever do cool things, right? So we're going to call a function that's called do cool things. And in this function, we're going to be setting this, where do we have it? This little label over here. So we're just going to do set text. And what I wanted to show here is we're going to use the menu. So we're going to take the text from the menu item, but we're going to use the alias. So this is just another way to say, oh, hey, look, this is the index is coming from the alias here, but we're getting the string from here, and we're going to see that it's correctly just displaying the same thing. And just really important, of course, for the slider, just like any other slider, you want to update the slider label itself. So like the host automation label, basically. So what is showing over here? So let's check it out. Now I'm moving here, entry 4, and you can look at the GUI. So entry 6, entry 9, everything is correct. Minimum, I cannot go beyond the minimum and the maximum. Everything looks good. And if I do the same over here, entry 0, and it jumped to entry 0. Entry 5, it jumped to entry 5, and we can make sure that that this part happened, right? That the label has been updated by just clicking on it without changing or hovering over it or whatnot, and we see that it's on on entry 5. So I think this is it. This is how you do it. Really simple. Remember the little tidbit here about the persistency. Otherwise, it's a really simple procedure, and this is how you get menu items to interact with host automation and with NKS. So this is how you do basically NKS for menu items. Thanks for watching. Hope you found this one useful. See you in the other lessons.